In these forests, a brilliant array of parrots adapted crafty beaks and dexterous toes. The tiniest of all, the fig parrot, gorges on fruit bigger than its head. The general rule for the males here is to be as colorful as needs be to attract a mate, without becoming a neon lure to predators. The king parrot is brash, while the green feathers of the red-cheeked parrot blend into the foliage. He relies on his sexy red head and bright beady eyes to get the females. But one of the most amazing birds in the world is the eclectus parrot, because it breaks virtually every rule in the evolutionary rulebook. The male is green and the female red. So strikingly different are they that for a long time people thought that the two must be separate species. Scientist Rob Heinsohn set out to discover the secrets of this rare creature.
Eclectus parrots are the pinnacle of parrot evolution. Their coloration has gone into uncharted waters. They are so different, and I just needed to know why.
Okay. Well, I've disturbed them now, but I had to do that just to see if they were occupying the hollows. And one did indeed come out of one of the hollows, so it's a very good sign at this stage. And it does mean that it's worth putting a line up and climbing the tree and having a closer look.
But there was just one problem.
I have a terrible, terrible fear of heights. I was getting dizzier by the moment, but I was also driven by an incredible desire to see what was inside those hollows. So I overcame that fear. I forced myself to stay steady on the rope and to keep climbing. Hey, Lindsay, got eggs? That's absolutely fantastic. It means they're breeding again. I'll just go up to the other hole and see how they're doing. And I went up 15 metres, 20 metres, 25 metres, and finally I reached the nest hole I was looking for. I reached inside, had a look inside, and there were two beautiful little chicks. Yep, we got chicks in here. Oh, they're beautiful too.
For the last 8 years, Rob has studied the female and all her chicks that live in this hollow. He measures and marks each one and monitors their growth. This doesn't seem to upset the chicks or stop their mother from nurturing them.
Our number one female, a star performer. She's just done what she typically does. She just produces healthy little guys like this. They get a very good start for their long life in the rainforest.
A good hollow is hard to find, and the female guards hers fiercely.
We'd spent a lot of time just watching her at the nest hollow. We built hides in neighbouring trees, and we spent a lot of time in the treetops. And we just watched the female's behaviour.
Rob's favorite female is not taking any chances with her hollow and doesn't budge for the entire 9-month breeding season. She is totally reliant on the male to bring her food.
A bit like Meals on Wheels. She's acting like an invalid, staying at home. The males are out there doing all of the work, coming and going all day long, purely for the right to regurgitate some food to her. And of course, they're hoping to get sex in return.
But this female wasn't just being attended by one male, she was getting lots of attention. In fact, 7 males were lining up to feed her. And she was mating with all of them.
And we worked out that this was, in a way, a form of trickery. She was trying to give them the idea that they all had a chance of being the dads. And that would give them extra incentive to go off and find the food.
But DNA tests on the chick's feathers revealed something astonishing. Of the 24 young she's produced in the last 8 years, 19 are from the same super stud male. To complete the picture, Rob wanted to know how far the males were going on their feeding trips.
We captured a whole lot of males and we put transmitters on their tails. We mounted aerials on the wings of the plane and we set out and followed them across country from the sky.
Incredibly, the lovesick male gathered food from a home range of about 40 square miles.
It also turned out that he was attending more than one female, and some of them had 3 or 4 different females that they were visiting and feeding and indeed mating with. So by following them around the landscape, we actually caught them out playing a little mating game of their own.
After visiting their girlfriends, the males fly back to Rob's favorite female.
Males often come back to the nest tree at the same time, and when that happens, there's a lot of argy-bargy.
With such different lifestyles, the huge color difference between the sexes makes a lot of sense.
The male's green. It's very important for them to remain camouflaged when they go across country, getting food from the fruiting trees. Males seem to use the red under their wings very judiciously to get the female's attention. In contrast, the female's red is a very conspicuous long-distance signal. She shines like a beacon. It screams at other birds, especially females. Keep away, this hollow is occupied. Don't bother coming near because I will beat you up.
No other bird in the world mates like this. It's a sex strategy that's been perfected over an incredibly long time in these ancient forests. While the eclectists were doing their thing, elsewhere on the continent, dramatic changes gave rise to a whole new range of parrots. Millions of years ago, most of Australia's rainforests gradually dried and became open woodlands. Many parrots were able to adapt to the new and tougher conditions. To survive on the desert edge, red-tailed black cockatoos stick to the few tree-lined watercourses. As the sun drops, the birds arrive from all directions. With breeding hollows scarce, most of these cockies are single. The local watering hole is their pickup joint, and the evening quickly turns into a boisterous party. Younger birds flirt by displaying the color banding on their tails and raising their crests. These fancy pop-up crests are what distinguish cockatoos from the other parrots. These opportunistic cockies thrived and spread out as the continent dried. During the last ice age, winds lashed the land and heaped sand into vast dunes. Grasses and shrubs spread across the desert, producing an abundance of seeds. The galahs were quick to take advantage of the new foods. They went just about everywhere, eating almost anything. Today, there's barely a patch of Australia without these extroverted cockies. But the opportunistic galahs were not the only ones to try new foods. The less common Major Mitchell cockatoos have recently acquired a taste for paddy melons. These inquisitive birds have little trouble working out some fancy footwork to break into the fruit. Their new cuisine arrived as part of an exotic smorgasbord. 150 years ago, cattlemen pushed their way to the desert center. And wherever they went, they brought a whole range of new opportunities for parrots to exploit. Paddy melons were introduced to feed the camels of the Afghan traders as they traveled the outback, supplying the isolated properties. It was a tough life for the early pioneers, and frequent droughts made it hard to make a living. Adding to the farmers' woes, the cockatoos soon worked out that where there was stock feed. All this free fast food made life pretty cushy for generations of cockatoos, and their numbers boomed. And the good times kept on rolling for the cockatoos and parrots when the settlers found underground water and pumped it to the surface. Man-made water holes helped parrots spread and survive where they couldn't have done before. Ringneck parrots, budgerigars, pale-headed rosellas all come in to drink in family groups. Mulga parrots can live in waterless areas, but no one in the outback turns down a free drink. Rain rarely falls in the Australian deserts. Droughts can last for over a decade. Water holes turn to mud. Leaving a freshwater crayfish exposed and an easy target. Wildlife has adapted to survive the times when the rivers vanish into puddles and the dams are turned to cracked and useless crusts. The air crackles in the heat. Crops are wiped from the earth. And the parched interior waits for rains that never seem to come. The first sign that the drought might break can be a warming of the western Pacific Ocean. Cyclones form by sucking up heat and moisture from the sea as they power in towards the coast. Winds of up to 150 miles an hour shred the shoreline. As the cyclone heads inland, it weakens and turns into a huge rain depression. The deluge sweeps nearly 2,000 miles across the center of the continent. And cockatiels celebrate with a rain dance. Within hours, every riverbed fills with life-giving water. The torrent charges through the narrow gorges of the ranges, eroding the land. Ribbons of nourishment snake across the continent towards the parched center. In the Channel Country, the creeks fan out across previously barren floodplains.